What's up, folks? So, got another question. I like asking questions. Uh, do you love planet Earth? Like, I love this planet. I love nature, and I think it's amazing that I'm here. I'm always asking, what the hell am I doing here? And I don't know if enough people ask themselves that question. They just think they're so lost. They don't even ask, like, who am I and why am I here, right? But do you love this planet? Because I don't I don't need a scientist to tell me that my environment is messed up. I don't have to look and do any research. I just have to go outside and drive down the road and see a sea of concrete and pollution in the sky. Uh, Brown Bay, you know. Look at the waterways dried up because they were diverted and not naturally the way that they're supposed to be. I don't need no scientists for that. I don't, the soil being dirt, all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff. Look, I mean, how many millions of people live in New York City? You know that on that small island of Manhattan, and that I don't need a scientist to tell me that that's not ecologically sustainable, right? I don't need any of that. I don't need to be told, or I could see it with my own eyes, right? So that's why, I ask, do you love this planet? And why don't we care enough? I'm always talking about care, right? Caring is the most important principle we need. Care for truth of our actions, and you could see the consequences of our actions so easily by looking at the environment, right? By looking at the planet. Statistics and that help, and science, is good for things, but I don't need it, and I'm not pointing to it as the be all end all of knowledge, because it's not. It's very compromised. Right? There's many people who are point to science. Science is like the answer for everything, and it's not. You know, the, so that's what permaculture has: the ethics, care for the earth, right? care for people, and the third one is really just about living ecologically. And I keep saying before we get to any of those, we need to care for the truth. We need to get to the root cause, we need to go inside, get to within our consciousness, because our consciousness is the most destructive force on planet Earth. You know, permaculture and science will point to agriculture as the problem, civilization, governments are the problem. And so many people think that I'm saying that, but they don't get what I'm saying is the root cause behind it all is our beliefs. Our wholehearted belief that we must do everything we can to defend this civilization. Right? And this civilization can only function on violence. And I can see that. And I keep telling people that you can see it too. You don't need a microscope to see it. Like you need a microscope to like maybe see what's underneath your fingernails. There's many things that we know exist that we can't perceive. But just like I can drive down the road and know that my environment is messed up, I can also see with my own eyes that our civilization can only operate on violence. All right? And it's not the civilization, it's the belief that that's the only way and we must do anything we can to defend this way of life. You know, to believe in these hierarchies is the only way to go. You know, how are we ever gonna have positive progress if our systems can only work with violence, and we're trying to like progress to, you know, a more of a loving world that has care, right? Care for truth. If you care for truth, you're saying, yeah, I can see that civilization is based on violence. But you really gotta, like, you don't need a microscope, but you gotta really go deep within and examine your beliefs. You know, I asked, like, why do you love this planet? And then I asked people, would you ever contribute money to an organization that murders innocent people? I asked people, do you believe anyone deserves to have more rights than you? Okay? And most people will say, yes, I love this planet. And they'll say, no, I would never contribute money to an organization that murders innocent people. And then they would say, no, I don't think anyone deserves to have more rights than me. You know, examine those beliefs. If that's really what you believe, then why are you in contradiction with all three of those things? That's what I'm getting at. Is like, you really have to go deep inside yourself and find those answers. You know, it's okay if you believe in things that aren't causing harm. Like, if you can believe like in purple elephants and you know what I'm getting at, like rainbow unicorns, and you know, sometimes I think there really are leprechauns. Like, I think that's a possibility. But if you go to Ireland, they talk about them, and there's books, and I mean, for millennia, and the elementals and all that. Like, that's possible, but it may or not be true, and that's like I could believe in it, right? But if something's true, you don't have to believe in it. But if I believe in leprechauns, it's not causing harm to anyone. And that's the whole point of what I'm always trying to say is, if you can go deep inside and ask yourself, are my beliefs true? And if they are, or they're not, are my beliefs causing harm to the planet, to other people, to all forms of life on Earth? That's what people don't want to do. But how else are we gonna get there? Unless people stop lying to themselves about reality. So, I love this planet, and I love to see it get better instead of worse as I drive down the road, for my children and future generations. And I just can't see anything wrong with coming on here and just saying, like, as long as I'm alive, then why not try, instead of being in ignorance and apathetic to it all? Because, yeah, it does seem like we're totally screwed. I get it. Like, I'm not naive. I probably think about it more than most, and I could still have a good day. By the way, I can go out and have fun, and I'm not like around moping all the time and like miserable. I'm still like can have a positive attitude, and I'm not just like sulking in this I feel the pain too, but so, like, that being said, I'm just, as bleak as it looks and how hopeless, to put any kind of faith in humanity, I'm not ready to give up. Like, I'm still saying that we can fix this, because it is possible. Only because it is possible. Like, I can look at it and say, it's still possible. Like that metaphor with the boat. There's a hole in the boat, and the materials are there, and the people are there. There's enough of a possibility to fix that boat. But it all has to do with the root cause, consciousness. There's nowhere else. There's no further place to look. There's no outside work. There's no person that you're going to put in office. There's no amount of cattle that you're going to like rotationally graze. None of that stuff's going to help us until we fix the consciousness. We heal our consciousness and get back into balance with this planet, right? Agriculture is an effect of our consciousness, and it's a destructive effect. Permaculture would only be an effect of our healed consciousness. It's the only way that becomes a possibility. So all the possibilities are within, not outside of us. And I want to hear more people talk to that. Like, that's definitely don't want to say hope. That's the chance we have. That's the possibility, is if enough people start talking about the root cause. The root cause, it's our consciousness, it's our beliefs. And the harm that they cause. And being as it's Christmas time, I should probably leave this part out of it, but maybe I'll cut it. Just something about beliefs, and Santa Claus and all that. And obviously Santa Claus isn't real. And but we tell our children that he is. Everyone's in on it. We all make pretend, and everyone's in on the lie. Like, and you get your kid to believe in this fake magical person, right? And I'll just say, look at the effects of that. I'm not gonna, that automatically makes me a Scrooge or a Grinch to say anything about that. Like, that everyone's pretending and lying and making believe. What are the consequences of that, as far as the consumer world that we live in? That just goes to beliefs. And then you gotta tell your kid that you were lying to them. And then they're like, there's gotta be a part of you is like, well, shit, I can't even trust my parents, And a lot of people think that's silly, but it's, examine that. Like, why the fuck you lying to your kid, man? It's messed up. All right, I'm out.